Yay, the kids are finally asleep.
So do you feel like...
Playing a game?
I've got a feeling a boss fight's coming up.
Ooh, I just got wrecked.
Headshot, baby.
Ooh, it's your turn to get the baby.
So are you up to the challenge?
Run, 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 run.
And we're dead.
That's when I realized I have no idea what I'm doing.
GG. Welcome to the KJ After Dark Gamer Parents Podcast, episode number 1. My name is Kevin. I am joined by my co-host, gamer partner, and wife, Joanne. Joanne, you want to say hi?
Hey everyone, yes, I'm his partner in crime.
Awesome. This is our very first episode of the podcast. This is pretty exciting. I would say to kind of start things off, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're here listening in from the future, going back to see what things were like on day 1, hopefully we've improved a lot and come a long way since now. Also hopefully we are incredibly successful and the number 1 podcast in the world by then. But we'll see. Only time will tell. Anyways, yes, episode 1, and I figured it would be neat to kind of give somewhat of an explanation on, who we are and what we're trying to do here. I figured we could go through the 5 W questions: what, who, why, where, and when. Starting off, I guess, with what? This is a podcast, but, I'm sure you figured that out already. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. It is just the two of us, Joanne and I, as husband and wife, talking about games together and our experiences as parents and everything that we go through in both of those areas. And in addition to this podcast, we're also streaming us playing said games together, which is, also going to be a lot of fun. But Joanne, did I miss anything on the what?
Oh yeah, and I just want to clarify why it's called KJ After Dark. It's because it's only done after dark when the kids are asleep. At this, age where the kids are 1 and 3, I don't think it'll work well doing it when they're awake. So this is why we're only going to be streaming, playing games, and doing our podcast after dark when they're asleep.
Yes, exactly. Thanks, Joanne. After the what would be the who. Kind of wanted to give our background stories ourselves on kind of our gaming history and kind of, I guess, how we kind of developed into the gamers that we are today. So for myself, I think it was a real turning point for me. There was one Christmas I got a Game Boy Color that came with the Pokemon Blue version.
Ooh.
And I remember it was Christmas Day opening that up, and as soon as we were done opening up presents, just sitting on the couch playing Pokemon Blue all night. And that game just really captivated me, completely sucked me in. I remember just having so much fun playing that game. Before that, I never had very much fun playing any kind of video game. And although back then there wasn't a whole lot of good games to pick from, and that was kind of the first one that just really blew me away. And I think it was that same Christmas also getting a Nintendo 64, which was my first console that I absolutely fell in love with. Playing a lot of really fun games back then. Mario Kart, Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Bomberman, Mario Party, just games that just give me a lot of nostalgia thinking about now, that I just wish I could play again. But those were some amazing games back then, and it really just caused me to fall in love with gaming, video games in general. So I started playing a lot of games at a relatively young age. I do remember kind of growing up and kind of having the view or accepting that games were for kids, and when I eventually became an adult, I would have to give that up. That when I became a husband and a dad, that games wouldn't be able to exist in my life at the same time. And as a kid, I think with feeling that adulthood was that far away, I was okay with that. And now here I am with a wife and 2 kids and still playing games because I've kind of realized that you don't have to have one or the other, especially when your wife is interested in video games too, and you can use it as a bonding experience for yourself. So Yeah, I mean, that was kind of how I got into video games and kind of led up to this point. Joanne, do you want to share anything like that on your history with gaming?
Yeah, it's like our inner child right now is just screaming, yes, yes. Anyways, so I grew up with a big brother. And growing up, I didn't really like playing with dolls or makeup and stuff like that. We usually play with cars and robots. And naturally, he introduced me to video games. And I know, like, one of the first games I remember playing with him was Rayman. I don't know if anyone has played it right now, but it was long ago. I think it was like first released in 1995. But anyways, my brother and I would bond over that game, as well as more interesting games like Doom, Warcraft, Dota, and Call of Duty. All of that, it was really fun to be able to share the gaming experience with someone. Hence, when I went into the dating life, I naturally look for a guy who was also into games, and that is how I met Kevin. We met online, and what do you call it? It was like love at first sight when I met him, because he was also into games, and we kind of like bond over a few games ourselves. And Kevin, would you like to share about like the first few games that we played together?
Yeah. Oh, that was sweet, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I know I was definitely more interested in Joanne, knowing that she did like some video games herself. And I remember the first game I think I introduced her to was Hearthstone. This was after Hearthstone came to mobile, and I think we were on like a road trip somewhere, like at a hotel, and I was playing some Hearthstone on the phone and kind of introduced that to you. And I think you ended up just downloading it right then and there, and we started playing that together.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, showing Joanne that and teaching her how to play Hearthstone, the Blizzard Warcraft card game, on the phone, which was a nice, easy way to play it. So that was an interesting experience and memory that we have together. Not only that, I think we have another Hearthstone memory. Do you want to share on that?
Yeah, so for our wedding, I actually surprised Kevin with a Hearthstone chess groom's cake. And it was just nice because it was the first game we played together as a couple, and I wanted that to be a part of our wedding memory. So it was a chocolate cake, by the way. It was a good memory, huh?
That was a cool memory, getting to have Hearthstone as a little piece of our wedding and that big special day. And I remember that cake. It looked so cool. I almost didn't want to eat it.
Yeah.
It was not only did it look really cool, but it was also really delicious. So
Yeah.
it was a great cake, a great memory. So that's kind of our story of a little bit of where we're coming from gaming wise, and a little bit of how we met, and kind of how we do things as a married couple here in
Yeah.
terms of games. And that's kind of our who. Jumping into our why, though, we obviously have an interest in games that we just talked about. We want to share that interest with others, and also give our opinions on the games that we're trying and that we're playing on our streams, and hopefully inspire other gamer couples to use video games as a way to connect with one another. And that said, if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whoever is interested in video games, you can use that as a bonding activity. So don't be afraid to do that. If you're both interested and like it, play it together. That's something that we've really jumped into, especially as our kids have gotten a little bit older, easier to manage. Not older, they're not babies anymore. So we have a little bit of time back, and we've gotten to put some of that into playing games together, and it's been some of the most fun we've had together. So it's been an awesome experience. Anything else there on the why, Joanne? Want to add anything?
Well, basically, I think it's fair to say that, with many gamer parents out there as well, we just love to be able to share feedbacks on new games that we try out, and whether it's convenient to play, with a kid or with a baby or toddler around, and what games that the kids could join in as well. What else? Let's see. Oh, what we really like about the games, or what we really dislike about the games. And they're all purely our opinions. But we're just giving it from our viewpoint as a gamer parent, because time is very precious, considering how much or how little sleep we get.
That's so true. I mean, I
Yeah.
would say my perspective on games has really changed since becoming a parent.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, it's way easier to play a game that you can pick up and put down at a moment's notice, or the games are relatively quicker. Anything where like you're jumping into a game that takes like an hour and it's really hard to step away, like those don't really work very well anymore. Also games that you need to put in like hundreds of hours to like finish, or to like achieve platinum or to finish the game completely. Obviously as parents, we get like maybe a couple hours a night to do this kind of thing, once the kids are asleep. So not like multiple hours a day, kind of like we used to be able to when we didn't have kids. So,
Yep.
and especially nowadays, there's so many good games out there that are coming out.
Yeah.
And with the limited amount of time that we have nowadays, we really have to pick and choose what games we want to play carefully, because you can't play them all. So kind of got to hit the ones that have the most value and that we find the most fun.
Exactly. And like Kevin mentioned earlier, I would like to reiterate that it is not the end of the world. It's not the end of gaming life once you have children or once you're married, because basically it's a way to, number one, keep your sanity. Number two, strengthen your marriage. It's a great way to bond with your significant other through gaming, I would say, apart from good communication and yada yada yada. But yes, the shared interest definitely helps with just building that relationship as well. And yeah, I guess that's our why, just to inspire and share.
Oh yeah, if you find the right game to play together, it's a lot of fun to play with your spouse. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's it for our why. Next would be on our where. So where you can find our podcast, hopefully anywhere you get podcasts. So if you are listening to this, well, good job. You've already found us somewhere at least. And as far as the stream, that is going to be over on YouTube. There'll also be other videos over there that we are going to be posting. We already have quite a few up that are strictly World of Warcraft related, and I think a couple of other ones. And then we'll also have our Instagram, and that is at KJ_after_dark. So if you have an Instagram, go check us out there. We have quite a few pictures already up. Joanne's kind of managing that one, but a lot of screenshots from some of the games we've been playing, as well as something pretty cool that Joanne's been doing over there. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. First, be sure to like and follow on Instagram. And yeah, so I do some screenshots of the games that we've played just over the last year, which is World of Warcraft. But there will be more to come as we try on many other new games. And I did also share some of my cooking, because I was like really into World of Warcraft, and then they had the World of Warcraft recipe book, and I decided to try out all the food in there, cook some for the family. And how do you like it, Kevin?
Yeah, so I mean, we were into World of Warcraft for a while, and for someone who's into the game and also loves food, and to have your wife cook food from the game was like really cool. So not only like does it look cool, and they have like cool names and recipes and everything to follow in the book, it also tastes pretty darn good. So that was really cool.
Thank you.
Especially like getting to see her kind of cook some of the items and dishes that they have in the game. And also being able to enjoy a really delicious meal at the same time was like beyond cool. So that's awesome. So we have the pictures of those meals on the Instagram as well.
Yeah,
so
and we also have our game room set up as well in there. Pictures of our game room, our playground.
Yeah, over the last year or so, we've also kind of invested in a lot of stuff for our game room that we have here at home, as far as lights, chairs, desks, monitors, all kinds of stuff. Kind of where we do all the fun stuff after the kids go to sleep. So we have pictures of all that stuff there too. So pretty cool. Come check it out. So after the where, we have when, and podcast episodes will drop every Sunday evening. So it'll be once a week, ready for you to listen to on Mondays to start off your week. Stream will be happening at YouTube on Tuesdays. 9:30 p.m. Central. So if what we're talking about here of husband and wife trying new games together usually should be ending with a fun experience between the two of us. Hopefully we don't get too frustrated with the game we're playing.
Flips table.
Yeah, depending if it's a co-op or not, we're really going to be relying on each other. So it should be a really good time no matter what. So if that sounds interesting to you, come check us out. YouTube Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Central. We miss anything on the who we are or about us, Joanne? I think we kind of covered everything.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Thanks for listening to all that. I know that's kind of what we wanted to get through in part of this first episode. But another thing I thought would be fun to talk about today, and also give people a little bit more insight on who we are as gamers. I think someone's top games of all time also kind of says a little bit about them as far as what kind of games they like and why. So I thought maybe we could talk about what games we liked the most. So Joanne and I both made a list of our top 5 games of all time that we were just kind of run through. So I mean, we kind of had separate lists here. So we'll start at number 5 and go down to number 1. So save number 1 for last. I'll go ahead and hit my number 5. So
Sure.
My number 5 game, that one would be Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Definitely not a new game. It was out for a long time. So it was out in like the early 2000s. I think it actually started off as an arcade game. But you basically pick your character between like a wizard, sorceress, warrior, knight, whatever. And you fight off like hordes of enemies and you use potions, you find treasure, you fight bosses, you pick up some simple items and all of that. You progress like through different levels. You unlock new characters and stuff. And the game itself was really simple. And I think at that time, that was like 22 years ago or so. It was a good game for me at the time. I think one of the reasons I really liked it, it was also one of the few games that like my dad would play with me too, which didn't happen all that often. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons that this game really sticks with me and, is definitely on my top 5 of games that I've really enjoyed. And it's one of those games that's still very nostalgic for me too, that I played through countless times. I had a lot, like one of each character basically, and remember playing with my dad a lot. So that's probably the main reason why it's even on this list. But that was just a really fun game for me. So that's my number 5. Joanne, what is your number 5?
So my number 5 is one of my all-time favorites. Well, it is a top 5. So it's an old game, obviously, but it's still close to my heart because this was one of the first few games that I got really hooked on, and it's the Sims series. So it's that life simulation game. I think it came out in year 2000 or so, and I know I've been like playing it since it came out, and then it followed by the Sims 2, and I don't even remember how many more of it I went and played, but I thought it was really fun. I mean, I was just a kid, and adulting was something I was really looking forward to as a kid. I don't know why, but yeah, I remember like I had a house and it was just so fun, like designing and all the interior stuff, pretending you could have a house with no doors or have a pool with no rungs to get in and out of. I don't know. Have you played The Sims before?
I have, and I think you mentioned something that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. I did enjoy The Sims 2. Definitely not top 5 for me, but I liked it growing up, and I think probably most people in the early teens have probably played Sims or are playing Sims. And I think one of the cool things about it was like you could pick what job you wanted and, go to your job and send your kids to school and, pay bills, which is kind of fun at that age, maybe, kind of.
I don't even know why.
Don't know why it would be fun. It's not fun anymore.
I know, it's not.
Yeah, paying bills is not fun anymore. But yeah, you kind of get to build your house and, take care of a person and try and keep them alive. And I actually have a funny story about The Sims. So I remember when I used to play it and I had my own whatever Sims family, my sister would also play Sims on the same computer, and she had her own Sims family. And one time while I was playing, one of her characters came over to my house and got in the swimming pool and then drowned. And I accidentally saved the game after that. And so when she went to log in, her character was still dead. So she
That's
lost her
funny.
character because they drowned in the pool at my house.
Was she upset?
She was super upset. So
I could imagine.
yeah, I kind of ruined the game for her. So yeah, sorry sister, sorry about that. But yeah, that was a long time ago when we were kids, and it was just kind of a funny Sims memory from way back
That
then.
is funny.
Well, yeah, definitely a good, interesting choice for number 5. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into my number 4. So my number 4 is Hearthstone, one we mentioned earlier. I mean, it was part of our wedding, right? So how can it not be on the top 5 for me? But yeah, Hearthstone, I've always enjoyed Blizzard games, starting with StarCraft, Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, the card game for World of Warcraft, basically. And I mean, this is a game that I played like back in beta when they only had, I don't know, maybe 100 cards, and everybody was using the exact same cards, and it wasn't really that fun back then because everyone was using the same cards. It wasn't that interesting. And now they've expanded it so much, and so many different packs and legendary cards and so many different game modes between, battlegrounds and duels and mercenaries and everything that they have going on in the game now today has just made it a lot more interesting. So that game over time has just gotten even better to me. So it's one that I always go back to, especially because they have you can play it on PC and you also play it on your phone. So that's kind of that's my go-to phone game right now. Like if I'm ever just wherever I have my phone, and you can just pop that out and play a game of Hearthstone if you're waiting for something. So that's the number
true.
4 for me. I really enjoy that game. So, but Joanne, what about you? What's your number 4?
Well, my number 4 is Kingdom Hearts 3. I really enjoyed it because it has like just so many combinations. Well, I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts to begin with, but I just like how it has Disney and Pixar and just Japanese animation as well. And I like how the mini games in there are super interesting. I like just how the storyline, just to fight darkness, and it was just like a dream come true. Like someone woke up and decided to combine all my favorites into one game, and how can it not be my number 4?
It was a pretty cool game. I mean,
Yeah.
Disney in general is hard not to love, especially when you put so many different Disney stories together in one game. There's usually at least one or two that you really like. I remember really liking the Toy Story and Monsters Inc. and they have Frozen in there and all kinds of other stuff. You kind of get a variety of like different stories and characters all mashed into one. Not to mention the Kingdom Hearts characters like Sora and everyone. Plus I don't think it was in Kingdom Hearts 3, but some of the other ones you have like Final Fantasy characters, which is really cool. Just seeing the direction that they went with that like whole series. So definitely a good choice.
Thank you.
On my number 3, though, I have a newer one, Call of Duty Warzone. I've always really liked the Call of Duty games.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they've traditionally been just the multiplayer experience until Call of Duty dropped their Warzone mode, which is just completely changed the Call of Duty or first-person shooter experience for me. So that if anyone not familiar, the Call of Duty Warzone is their Battle Royale mode, which in general, I just think Battle Royales are really cool. It's taking that multiplayer experience and just putting everybody on a huge map where whether you live or die is incredibly important. I guess it's important anywhere, but you don't just respawn 2 seconds later if you die. You have to restart a game, and these games often last 20-30 minutes a piece, depending on how far you get. And you really have to strategize. You can drop in solo, drop in with 2 or 3 other people, up to 4 on a squad. And it completely changes the whole strategy depending on how many people you have and how many people you're going up against. It's really a nerve-wracking game. It kind of has you on the edge of your seat the whole time, just trying to survive and trying to wipe out other squads and make it to the very end. I think drop in with about 150 people or so on a huge map, and I mean, yeah, most of the time we get out pretty early, or we don't make it to the very, very end. But when you get a victory out of 150 people, it feels really good. So it's one that's definitely a lot of fun to win on. And it's a game that I still really like and I've liked for a while, and it'll maintain a spot on the top 5 for me for now, at least.
That is actually very true, because I've seen you play it recently, and I know that it is definitely changed over the years from the first time I played Call of Duty when I was in college. So it's definitely more nerve-wracking now, but at the same time, it's definitely more fun to me, with all the, extra features like the gulag and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Call of Duty games, I remember going back to like the original Modern Warfare 1 and 2 installation, and like Call of Duty games have changed a lot, even just in the multiplayer between slide canceling or just sliding and all the different things they've added to the game, and then adding Warzone as a mode, which just really made it a way more fun experience for me. So, but yeah, that's my number 3. Joanne, what about you? What's your number 3?
So my number 3 is Final Fantasy X. So I really like Final Fantasy X because, again, Japanese animation, very heavy on that, and just like the whole storyline itself, like of how Titus, they're just trying to destroy this thing called the Sin. Was it the Sin?
Yeah, Sin.
It's called Sin. Yeah. And then finding out that it was his father, and that he is just a dream. I don't want to give
big time spoilers in there, but this game did come out like over 20 years ago. So if you don't know the story, you're probably not going to play it now. But
it's I pretty much think like, fighting all the monsters to pursue your quest with your group mates. That really was really cool to me. I mean, it was an old game, but I know they just have remastered out recently. So I really enjoyed playing it again, and I love the music in it. Okay, the music is amazing. Yeah, the storyline and the music itself is, Final Fantasy has so many storylines from, the first Final Fantasy, but this is Final Fantasy X, and I really think it's really fun. So what do you think? Did you enjoy it when you played with me?
Yeah, I know a lot of people say Final Fantasy 6 or 7 are the best ever, but if you haven't played it, you got to give it a try. It's one that I think I remember getting shortly after the PS2 was released, and when I got a PlayStation 2, and this game really showed off what the PlayStation 2 can do. And I just remember being blown away by the cinematics at that point. It was like early 2000s, and even to today's standards, the cinematics at some points in the game are still up to par. The gameplay in general is decent, pretty fun, but to me it was like watching a movie at times. The story just get so pulled into what's going on and the plot twists crazy, especially towards the end. And what you kind of think was happening is not really the case.
I know.
Which is not that common in games. I feel like games are written more for the gameplay or the
plot twist,
the battling and all that, and not so much on the story writing. I know Final Fantasy is pretty good at that, and so definitely one for the top 5. So and it's an older game, and it still plays really well. Yeah, we played the remastered a couple years ago, and was still a lot of fun.
Yes.
So very good choice on number 3 for sure. I'll jump to my number 2. So I'm only got 2 left here to talk about on my list. My number 2 is League of Legends. That's one that I really got into in college. Probably really starts back to playing Dota some on Warcraft 3. I was never very good at Dota, but then League of Legends kind of came out, and I kind of stuck with that one a little bit more, and actually got pretty decent. And then I was in college at the time, so I had a lot more time living in the dorms. When I wasn't studying or going into class, I was usually playing League of Legends. This was also around the time a lot of other colleges and universities started coming out with League of Legends clubs. Sorry, can't speak. And so I actually decided to start my own League of Legends club at my university, which was really interesting. I had to like give a presentation to the board of like why there should be a League of Legends club, which back in what was that, I want to say 2012, 2013 felt like a really weird thing to do. Why, hey, we should have a club about this video game, and then actually kind of get it approved. Like that was really cool and interesting experience. And then kind of getting to be a founder for that club and hosting meetings and all of that, and doing some tournaments and that kind of thing with people from the club. That was a lot of fun. That was really cool. That was one of my coolest experiences I've had, like with a game, but still also outside, and also allowed me to meet a lot of other people who were also into the game. Because they would join the club, come to our meetings and all that. So I was able to make a lot of friends that way too. So it was definitely a good thing that we had going on. So, but yeah, I mean, that's I guess mostly what I have to say about the League of Legends. That's my number 2. Joanne, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Witcher 3. So I really like Witcher 3 because, all right, number 1, again, the storyline. You can tell I'm a sucker for storylines. Yeah, I thought it was really cool how, Geralt and Ciri all came about, and with the help of Triss and Yennefer, just the characters and the build up of everything in the game was amazing. I mean, I've played a lot of role-playing games before, but The Witcher had a very different I don't know, what do you call it, impact to me. I mean, just the music and the layout of everything in the game was just so pretty. And I'm glad, I was so happy when I saw that The Witcher was on Netflix when it came out, So yeah, I would say The Witcher would be my number 2, only because of how it made me feel, like the way no other game has made me feel before.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Witcher 3 when it came out was kind of like Final Fantasy X, one of those games that seemed to be like way ahead of their time.
Yes.
I mean, story wise and just the size of the game, and it was a pretty big map for that game and those kinds of games in general, and especially at that time.
The graphics, wow.
Yeah, graphics were not too bad either. And then just the gameplay is fun, and mostly the story and the characters, and tons of side quests and missions, and not to mention Gwent. Gwent being inside the game, it was almost like a game in a game.
Yeah.
You go and collect the Gwent cards, you go and duel people with those. That was fun. I spent like days just playing Gwent, like not advancing in the storyline at all.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That's a really fun game too. So great choice for a number 2. Not to mention the Netflix series. You did bring that up. That's so cool. Like when there's a game that you're really into, and they release like a show or a movie or something about it. Like that's really cool. I love it when that kind of lines up with a game that you're really into. So definitely a good choice. Now, last one on my list, my number 1.
On our list, you mean?
Yeah. Well, we have 2 separate lists here, but
we share the same number 1.
Number 1 for me, yeah,
2
is World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Now, as a game that's been out for almost 20 years, I think, maybe a little bit less than that. I've been playing this game for about 15, probably when I was in high school or so, playing with high school friends, and then kind of taking a break from the game. So, I mean, although it's been about 15 years since I started, it's kind of been on and off relationship with the game since then, as new content comes out, and then kind of go through a dry patch with limited content and limited things to do. But it's a game that I go back to usually whenever there's an expansion. I think with the exception of one, I have basically played through every expansion. So obviously some turmoil going on at the company now, Blizzard, with stuff that they've been going through in the news lately, but still a game that I definitely keep my eye on, and one since this is a list of all time, and it's been a game that's kind of been on my computer I've owned basically since the mid 2000s.
For you, at least.
It definitely had to be on this list and definitely deserves a number one spot.
Yes, I agree.
I mentioned playing with friends from high school, and now as we're married and have kids, we also got into World of Warcraft together quite a bit and joined a guild to do some raiding and dungeons and all that, and it was really interesting. We joined another guild that most of the people in that guild were also parents and obviously gamers. You have to run a World of Warcraft guild. That
was fun.
I mean, with most of the people being parents in there and similar to our age, it was so much fun just kind of being able to connect with them and play. What an amazing game with them, and also talk about stories as parents, and we're kind of at different stages with where we at with our kids, and just hearing what they had to say about their parenting experience is like, wow, also playing World of Warcraft was really fun. So that's my number one spot. Joanne, you mentioned you had the exact same one on your number one, so it's also World of Warcraft. Did you want to add anything about why you like the game?
Oh, of course. Well, I haven't played it as long as you. I've only played it for about a year now, but I would say it is my favorite game only because it's so big. Like the world of Warcraft itself is so big. I can just go like for days and months. No, I don't know, maybe years after this. Just doing quests and being involved in the world events. There's always something going on. Like if there's not a world event, there's brawls or time walking or PvPs. There's just so many things that you could do depending on what you like. For me, I enjoy collecting the transmogs in the game. I also enjoy doing all the world events to gain achievements. I enjoy raiding in the latest expansion of Shadowlands. I enjoyed dungeoning and raiding with our guildmates. So it's just like, and even now when everything's on hold because, we're just waiting for the new expansion or new patch, but we're just, I'm still playing it because there's always something to do in there, whether it's trying out another expansion or from the past or something. But yes, I think that like this is going to be a game I would be playing for a very long time, even until we're grandparents probably. But yes, I'm so grateful for Kevin to introduce this game to me because it is easily my number one right now because there's no end to it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned playing this game until we're older. Maybe our kids will even play this game with us one day. I mean,
oh my gosh, that would be so cool. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we'll see. Blizzard just has to get through what they're going through, and hopefully we'll see the World of Warcraft come out the other side of it. But definitely been a fun game over the years as they've gone through different expansions. The game has transformed every single time, and it almost feels like a different game sometimes from previous expansions as classes change so much, and they add things like achievements and pet battles and Hearthstone dungeons and new raids and all this stuff. It's like you mentioned, it's a game that you'll never run out of things to do.
Exactly.
And if you run out of things to do with one character, well, guess what? You can make an alt and play a different class and have another character to play. So I don't know, it's a game where it's always felt kind of overwhelming with like how much stuff there is to do, and sometimes deciding what you want to spend your time on because you can't do everything in that game. It's just too big.
Yeah, it is too big.
Yeah, so that is our top 5 games of all time for both of us.
Yep. And
we did have some honorable mentions though to talk about.
That's true.
I guess one of my first honorable mention would be the Dark Souls games. Really, Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
I really love those games. I think like part of it just being, I mean, everybody knows Dark Souls as being games that are really difficult and unforgiving. Making a single mistake and you're dead. Everybody's seen that, that screen and when after you die come up. And just fighting a boss like 100 times without killing him, and then finally getting it just makes the victory that much sweeter. And it's a game that's like it's hard to like sit down and play because like you're so like, stressed out and trying to finish a boss off, or not. Most of it's about not dying first and then killing whatever you're fighting. Just try not to die. That's the main thing. So I really liked how difficult the game was. Like, I think that was one thing. Like, if I ever went through a game that I enjoyed, I would usually try it on like the hardest setting and then see like if I can get through it. And that was basically what it was like playing Dark Souls from day one. It was just always that difficult. So that was definitely a game that was a lot of fun to me. Another honorable mention that I had, though, was the Far Cry games, particularly Far Cry 5 was the last one that I played. We are one of the poor souls that does not have a PlayStation 5 yet, so we haven't bought any like new PlayStation games. We're kind of waiting on that, but Far Cry 5 was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to try Far Cry 6. Also, Assassin's Creed games, particularly Odyssey, Origins were really fun as well. For the same reason, we haven't tried Far Cry 6, we have not tried Valhalla. Also, just waiting on that PS5 first before we dive into that, but we'll definitely have to catch up on both those games once we get a PS5. Hopefully that's not too far along in the future, sometime soon. But that was it for my honorable mentions. Joanne, what are your honorable mentions?
My honorable mentions are Left 4 Dead. I don't know if you've played it before, but I really enjoyed playing it. It's more like a zombie kind of game where, a lot of shooting and...
Oh yeah, I mean, any zombie game is fun for me. Left 4 Dead was always a lot of fun. Even like a lot of the zombie modes in Call of Duty games have been a lot of fun. Definitely want to try the Back for Blood, which is the new kind of Left 4 Dead style game that looks a lot like that. So that would be fun. But yeah, those games definitely a lot of fun. Good choice.
And also Until Dawn. Have you played that game? Oh yes, you did. You played it with me.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool too. I mean, like, it was also kind of like a horror kind of game where, a group of teenagers went to the mountains and have to survive until dawn from these weird Wendigo creatures. And then there's Fall Guys that I think it's an honorable mention because it's a fun game that we could play even with our kids, at least with our toddler kid. He enjoys watching you playing it. He'll probably learn it in the future, but I think it's an honorable mention because it's such a fun game to watch as well. If not playing, I mean, like, literally kills me on the inside to play that game. I can't ever win. I will always get eliminated.
It's one where our 3-year-old will be like, Daddy, let's play Fall Guys.
I know.
It's the only game it's probably the only game he knows exists at this point. Poor guy doesn't know all these other games, but one day he will. Probably better games by then will be out, much better games. But Fall Guys is one it's pretty simple, so I'm kind of hoping he could probably pick that up at some point. At this point, he kind of just holds the controller and jumps around and doesn't really do a whole lot beyond that. No trophies for him, unfortunately, but he still loves it nonetheless.
So yeah, that's the honorable mentions that I have.
Okay, yeah, those were some good ones. Definitely talked about a lot of good games. So that's our top 5 games and honorable mentions that we've had. Kind of curious though, if anyone's listening to this, what your top 5 games of all time would be. So definitely let us know either in the comments if you're listening on YouTube, or come check out our Discord. We will have the link for that on our YouTube, and I think it's on our Instagram as well, but if not, we will make sure it's there, and drop a note in the chat and let us know what your top 5 games of all time are, and maybe why. We'd love to read that and see if any of ours line up or anything, but definitely share that with us on Discord or YouTube. That's about all we had for today. This is the first episode, so hopefully it was okay. We're definitely going to have more to bring back next week as we try out a new game here. One that we've already picked out, but we will share that with you guys next week when we drop episode 2. Thank you so much for checking out the KJ After Dark podcast, and we look forward to talking to you guys next week.
Yeah, stay tuned.